Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, welcome to the Beacon TVL show, your weekly podcast from Beacon DeFi, your beacon in the world of decentralized finance. I'm your host, Professor Chris, the DeFi professor. We've got a great show lined up for you today as we tackle the news of the week that's relevant to you, our dear users in the world of on-chain investing. Today on the show, we have as our rotating panelist, fellow creator with me in the ex-co-host program, Crypto, DeFi, and Gaming Enjoyor. We have Lito back on the show here at TVL. Welcome again for joining us today, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me again. Look forward to talking about this.
I know you're really excited because with our featured panelist making his first appearance on our show, and again, so humbled to have you here on the show, Justin. We have award-winning game designer, entrepreneur, speaker, author, a founder and co-creator of the game that's going to fuel one of our most exciting community engagement events that we're ever going to have here at Beacon DeFi, from the hybrid TCG, Solforge Fusion, and CEO of Stoneblade Entertainment. A warm welcome to Justin Gary, everyone. Thanks for being here, Justin. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Excited to be here and have some fun chats today.
I think so. Yeah. So, I had something for the open, but after something we were talking about, right before we came on, I really actually just kind of wanted to get some thoughts, because we were just talking about how precious life is and how you have a memento mori necklace. In fact, I tweeted something to somebody not that long ago about, what's some life advice that you have? And I'm like, we really only get roughly about 3,300 weeks in our life. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but find your tribe and live your best life. So that's kind of the advice that I have to people when they're thinking about life. Because as you mentioned, with memento mori, I mean, things can change at any minute. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so this ties into my broader philosophy on life and my philosophy for my company. So every week we have an all hands meeting and we repeat the company motto, and that's work with awesome people, make awesome things, help each other grow. And that expands to a philosophy of life, right? You want to surround yourself by people that lift you up. You want to be the kind of person that lifts other people up. The process of like creating and building things and like making something in the world is valuable in and of itself, right? I've got plenty of great successful games. I got plenty of games that weren't so successful, but the process of making things and trying to make people happy and build community has helped me learn, helped make me better, and helped make my little mark on the world. And that help each other grow, allowing us to be able to get better and grow, because none of us are perfect. We're all figuring this out as we go along. Back when I first started my company a little over 15 years ago, right? We just celebrated the 15th anniversary of my other game, Ascension. I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I'm gonna be very straight up, right? I was working for another company for a while, and it took me a little while to figure out that the CEO of that company, which was a $500 million a year company, he didn't know what he was doing. And that's what made me decide to start my company. And I, each step of the way, as long as you're kind of being honest and doing your best and learning as you go, like, that's what a successful life looks like. And so it's something I try to live, in my personal life. It's something I try to instill in the people in my company, and it's something we try to instill in the broader community of people that play Solforge Fusion, the people that play Ascension, the people that no matter how great a game is, and obviously I'm biased, but I think Solforge Fusion is a great game. It's actually the community that keeps people going, right? Like, I played Magic the Gathering professionally for a very long time. I was the youngest ever U.S. national champion. I was a world champion. I made a bunch of money playing that game. But honestly, the money wasn't what kept me there. It was the fact that I had like an awesome community of friends, and we would meet up in different places around the world and every couple months and come together and do something we loved. And so I really try to apply that to all the things that I do.
That's amazing. I mean, I completely agree with everything you just said there. So thank you for that. Lito, you were kind of asking about that, and in our little pre-show. So would love to get your thoughts, as someone growing up where you are, like your thoughts on, how to live life to the fullest.
Well, I regularly think to myself to live with the end in mind. And as I age and the older I get, the more of a sense of urgency I go and throughout the day with, knowing that I don't, in the grand scheme of things, have a lot of time left. And you have to approach life with a sense of urgency, because like Justin was talking about in the pre-show, you don't want to be 80 thinking, man, I wish I would have done this, or I regret not having done this. You want to know that, you lived your life without fear of being thought of as weird, without fear of judgment, without fear of, do I have time left? You want to be happy with the decisions that you've made in life. So these are the things that I go through and think about every day. And I think that my days become a lot more productive as a product of that. So, yeah.
That's amazing, brother. That's amazing. High conviction, and just go out there and live life, man. You only get one in this form. So go out
Yes.
and do everything you can to maximize that. So I mean, that's a great segue, to our first thing, because normally we talk about the markets, but frankly, there's really only one person that's kind of in the minds of a lot of people right now, and it's Chairman Powell. And shout out to the CT lead from the group at Backpack. Hello to Armani Ferrante in the group there. This is so good. I saw it and I was like, I gotta have this. I gotta have this as the first segment. But yeah, I mean, today is the day that we're going to get a decision. It's pretty much guaranteed that today is a rate cut to the federal funds rate from the Federal Reserve. The question is really, what is it going to be? Is it going to be 25 bips? Is it going to be 50? And what's interesting about this is that, and again, we talked about this last week, if you're looking to possibly farm a poly market airdrop because the rumors are rumbling again, if you're looking for something to definitely get some volume on, this might be one to consider, or ones like it, where you can have multiple options, hedge your bets, regardless if you win or lose. So it looks like 25 is by the overall favorite. I'll start with you, Lito. Do you think there's any chance that there is not a rate cut today?
Well, there's always a chance that there isn't.
Right.
This isn't this isn't honestly the what I am the most expertise in. So I would love to jump this on to Justin instead. Would you like to comment on that?
Put it on me. Well, as a game designer, I am also an expert in global and U.S. economic decisions. So
this is game theory, sir.
It is game theory. So I'll take it on as a non-expert here. I think that there's a couple challenges, right? We have unemployment is being increased. They're looking for mechanisms, and it's actually a lot higher than we initially thought as they're revising rates. There's going to be a strong push to want to stimulate the economy from that sense, but inflation hasn't slowed. So I don't think that there's going to be, I think there's going to be a decrease, because if there's not, the markets have already priced it in, and there's going to be a large negative impact. And so we're kind of locked into it. I'm not sure it's actually a good idea for long-term market health, but I do think that we're going to see it just because the short-term impacts are going to be too volatile, and there's a lot of pressure on the Fed and on the government in general to keep things moving in the right direction, keep those arrows up and to the right.
See, I thought that was great. That was a great take on it.
Very expert take.
That's an expert take right there. Overall, I think we keep the course. If you look at the charts for Bitcoin, to be quite honest, and most risk on access assets, we're still going up and to the right. We have another all-time high for the S&P 500 yesterday. So they're pricing in something. So we're looking to see where this goes. Overall, because he's now in this lame duck phase of his term, because he is going to get replaced in May, or even the replacement being named before he resigns, or his term is over in May. I think we get the 25 here, and then we possibly get that. I've said it since the beginning of the year, 50 in November. We'll see what happens. But the data, he's a data-driven guy, and guess what? The data has now been presented in a way that will guarantee today's cut. So we'll see where we go from here. Overall, the market is, fairly hungry with regards to what we're looking at. Looking at bubbles, again, mixed finance is still dominating the conversation. I guess there's a really great team behind them. Otherwise, fairly uneven, but we'll see more of this after the FOMC, report that comes out. So I'll go and move on to the next part, because I definitely want to talk more about Stoneblade and Solforge Fusion with Justin. But one thing I definitely want to talk about that's leading the news of the week for me personally, it's payments. Because if there's one thing that's going to blend a lot of these retail users coming back into our space, it's going to be how easily can you onboard them from a payment and funding standpoint. Google has rolled out what's called AP2. It's actually a payment layer meant for AI agent payments, but it works with Coinbase's new X402 standard, which will help bridge Web 2 and Web 3 together to help make payments a very trivial thing in this space. Looking at this photo, as you can see, there's a lot of really large payment Web 2 companies or Web 2 based companies, but there's also some Web 3 assets here. For example, MetaMask is in here. Coinbase, Crossmint, and EigenCloud are the ones that, and Miston Labs, who are behind the Sui blockchain. They're the ones that originally just kind of stood out to me. There's also a lot of regional brands like Lazada that's also here. So we're seeing this on a global standpoint. The interesting part is it's going to be using MCPs, or model context protocols, for agentic payment workflow, basically just APIs for AI agents. So it's going to be very extensible to be used by multiple applications. I think for commerce, for gaming, this is going to create a very frictionless way to easily top up your accounts, which I think is critical, specifically, in my opinion, for the success of GameFi, for AAA games, for strategy games, any kind of games that are looking to be using retail inflows for their payment infrastructure. So, Justin, being in the GameFi space, or just in the gaming space in general, would love to get your take on this move, plus all of the other moves that Coinbase has been doing up to this point to help make payments a very trivial barrier to cross.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting topic, and I'll take what may be a hot take here, which is the best version of crypto is the version of crypto you don't even know is there. Right. The reality is that every piece. So we, just to give a little bit of backstory where I'm coming from with this, right, is we took a game that was initially in the physical world, using new technology to digitally print one-of-a-kind decks, and those could be scanned into an online account and played via classic Web 2 Steam interface, and you would then use the Steam interface and use a credit card to pay for things, and everything, once you have it in your account on Steam, you just click one button and you confirm the purchase, and it just happens. And then we moved into Web3, and we allowed our third pillar of the game in Web3, where you can now use our SFG token, which is on Solana, now also live on Base, which allows you to pay for things. And I will tell you, so much of the friction that came from players who didn't know how to make a wallet and connect it to the thing, and they have to get Solana first, and then they have to get the SFG, and then how to, like, it's very tricky. The UI UX is not great, and we've done our best to make it better. But the dream of these kinds of better agentic protocols is that you're just going to have my payment bot, and my payment bot has all of my things, and it can even create wallets for me. It could be a non-custodial wallet, but in reality it's managing everything for me, so I have access, I have control over it, and it can say, okay, I'm going to pay this with a credit card, I'm going to pay this from your Solana wallet, I'm going to pay this from whatever, and you don't even know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't need to know what's going on behind the scenes. You get a report at the end of the day of how much you're spending and how much you're doing. You're approving any expenses, and other than that, everything else is the rails behind the scene. The same way I don't know what the HTTP protocol is to get to a website. I don't care. I don't even need to type that into my browser anymore. With my old school days, I used to, right? That's the best version of what's happening here. And again, it's too early for me to tell. I haven't played with the new protocol, but if it delivers on that promise, I think it's going to be massive for the space and massive for broader adoption.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head. It's just the obfuscation, the abstraction away for the user for all of this is really what it's going to be, is going to make this special. And while it's one of probably multiple different standards we're going to see, Lido, I know that from an AI agent standpoint, just from having that quote unquote digital assistant take care of all this for you, because you can use natural language with a lot of these agentic flows to get all of this done, much like what we see with like BankerBot. Shout out to the Banker team. And other teams that are doing something similar, like Symphony AI with trading, for example, or Infinite Labs, stuff like that. What's your take on something like this, as having this as an easier way to navigate GameFi? This is something that I think a lot of games could really work with. I mean, because you could have it, based on what's going on here, you could really do a lot of things with this as both a developer as well as a protocol looking to involve this.
Well, looking at it from a Web3 standpoint, I think that this is going to be great for Web3 integration into gaming. If you look at them including MetaMask into this, these type of Web3 applications, I really agree with what Justin said, that the best kind of application for Web3 is the user not knowing that they're using Web3 applications, especially with the bad reputation of crypto. When you see presidential candidates or presidents, making their own coins, crypto has a bad rep. So if there's a way that we can seamlessly integrate this into our current infrastructure to where users are not really thinking that they're interacting with crypto, I think that that's a big W for us in the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. We'll go ahead and move on to the next subject because this also involves Justin in a way. So the other big news of the week comes from Base, from Coinbase's Layer 2. They had their Basecamp event, which was like a camping type of event that they're having up in the mountains in Vermont, which is the beautiful place. And they had something on I believe it was Monday. Yeah, Monday they had a live stream with a keynote, and they had Jesse Pollock, head of ecosystem, come out, and they announced a couple of things that I thought were fairly interesting for our users specifically. First, Base has built a two-way bridge with Solana that's going to allow devs on both sides of the chain to have access to both ERC20 and SPL20 token liquidity. For those who are looking to do cross-chain stuff, like for example, if you're on Jupiter, you can do Jupe Lend because of their integration with Incidap, with Fluid. That's a huge cross-chain partnership there. Interoperability has really been the name of the game for the last 12 months in this space. Interoperability, being able to just, again, move without worrying about what chain it's on. It's all just there working in the background for you. These are actually really big. This is actually fairly big news. The other news that's on top of it from that show is that Base is looking to finally explore a network token. This could lead to nothing, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know. But the fact that they're talking about a network token now is interesting, mainly because they've kind of painted themselves into this creator capital market corner, right? Base is for everyone. Zora, all of these things, these flywheels, like with virtuals and AI agent tokens, they've created token capital markets just like Solana has created token capital markets. So now people are asking, is this going to be like a governance token? I'm like, I don't think so. I think this is going to be a creator incentive token for anyone who wants to create a token. And you can do that today. You can create a token in the Base app, on Farcaster, even on the Solana site, on pump.fund, bonk.fund. There's all kinds of ways to do it, and you can do it for free. I mean, you can just message Clanker on Farcaster or even on Twitter, and they'll create a token for you right then and there, and it's up to you to market it. So I think that's kind of the focus, because they want to reward people who are building, who are creating, and create a global economy with the premier decentralized network. So I'll start with you, Justin, if you have any thoughts specifically on these two events, on how they could affect your game.
Well, listen, so we've already done we've already bridged our token through these exact partners, right? So this is actually pretty funny. So it is we launched on Solana originally. Solana has been an incredible partner for gaming. We have our NFT collection on Solana, and we launched our token on Solana. But the vision for Solforge Fusion was always to be multi-chain, right? The goal, again, part of the same idea that the technical parts are in the background, that like we are available wherever you are, whatever platforms you're comfortable with, you can use those to play the game. So we used Layer 0 to bridge the token over, build liquidity over on Base. It sounds like this is just going to be a cleaner tool that's going to make that even easier. And frankly, the Layer 0 tool was fantastic for us and made that so much easier than we had imagined it was going to be to start expanding chains. So what I want to see is more and more of this together, right? So that it looks like these different crypto chains are not just, kind of their own communities and their own ecosystems, but that they're really, in essence, countries as part of a united nation, right? Like each one will have its own specific advantages and disadvantages and regulations, and you could decide which ones are right for you, but it's, you have an easy passport that gets you from one to the other, instead of feeling like I am on a different entire planet than everybody else and we have to kind of fight and battle. And so I think this is one step in that direction. And I think it's the right direction for not only DeFi generally, but frankly for the world generally, right? It's going to allow us to build the communities we want to build and connect them in the ways we want to connect them.
Yeah, Lito, I wanted to get your take on this, but also as a creator yourself, along with me, this is actually, really interesting news to be able to have easier ways to get easily. The biggest issue for us as content creators is distribution. So if we can tap into that distribution through, just very easy ways with things we want to create digitally, I think that's a huge win for creators overall. So the fact that they're really pushing this narrative about trying to incentivize creators and builders, possibly through a network token, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, everyone wants to be on base right now because that's where there's so much hype with regards to where people are being onboarded.
Yes, absolutely. Coinbase, could you please send me my base app code? I would love that. But on that note, yeah,
I
no,
might be able to help you with that, brother. Let me
okay.
look into that.
That'd be dope. But yeah, I think about it as not only a content creator, but as someone who is working on like onboarding my friends in Web2 in everyday life into cryptocurrencies. It's when I tell them that, hey, you might Solana and let's say Ethereum ERC20 tokens are not exactly on the quote unquote same country or same island. Where you're going to have to withdraw into an exchange, and then from the exchange shell, and then send that to Solana and back and forth between ERC20 tokens. Well, now you have bridges that can interact with each other, like let's say D-Bridge. These make going between one country to the next, going from one blockchain to the next, a lot easier, where you don't have all these intermediary steps in between. And it's great as someone who regularly interacts with the blockchain to be able to be down the line, let's say rewarded for using these infrastructures to bridge these tokens from one chain to the other. I really like what Justin was saying about before these bridges. It's like, let's say I was in the United. There's no flying. There's no boats. There's no bridges. There's two separate countries. Let's say one is Solana, the other is Base. Previously, you might not have been able to interact with between each of them. And the fact that we have this infrastructure being built with these bridges, it's cool. Like, okay, I can go on this flight from Solana to Base back forward. I can go on a flight from New York to South Korea back and forth. This infrastructure is great, I think, for it's a great breath of fresh air and makes everything easier, especially when I'm explaining to friends who I'm trying to onboard into blockchain.
That's a great point. I did want to go ahead and shift the conversation to our last point before we start talking about Stoneblade and Solforge Fusion. But I wanted to ask you, Justin, with regards to stablecoins and how they're going to be an accepted payment, because we just talked about the Google announcement there. From taking payments in terms of taking them in terms of stablecoins, what are your thoughts, or really, are there any plans to include those into the onboarding ways to get into, buying packs or, buying boosters and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I mean, it all comes down to where are the friction points for our customers, and as a developer, where am I going to pour my energies into growing and making it more accessible? I'm a big believer in stable coins. I think it's frankly, like, anytime you can look at a market and see where somebody that's just rent seeking is taking massive and trillions of dollars of profits, like with banks and the wire transfer systems and everything else, like obviously room to disrupt, a lot of value there. Stable coins are solving a real problem and serving a real great purpose. When it comes to sort of accepting them and having them be part of the ecosystem for Solforge Fusion, the question is there anybody right now that's being stopped from playing the game or feels friction from playing the game that can't either, use a credit card or use the SFG token to get access to everything that they need? And right now, I think the answer is no, right? I don't think that there's like a pain point there that's a high priority to address. Again, long-term, the vision is, we're everywhere for everybody, and any, token or chain or any mechanism that you want to like engage with our ecosystem is available. But I don't feel like and it's not just for Solforge Fusion, I think just gaming in general, like I don't feel like the current like traditional like fiat currency tools are broken. And if you do want to pay things like actually, I'll give one more point to this, which is that in essence, we've solved this problem ourselves. And what that means is if you go to solforgefusion.com and you go to buy a pack of cards with SFG, we live update the price for you based on the kind of dollar value of a pack, and you actually get a discount over the retail price if you're paying with SFG. So we're in essence making Solforge coin is not a stable coin, but in terms of its purchasing power, we actually keep that stable to make sure that the customer gets the most value, and that if you're engaging with the SFG ecosystem, you get the best deal on in-game items and all the cool stuff. So in essence, this was a problem that did exist, but we solved it in a different way.
That's actually a really interesting point. That's amazing that you give a discount SFG, because moving forward with everything that's going on, at least in the next 3 to 4 months, I think we'll start seeing a wave of new buyers coming in who have things like PayPal USD, or, what we're about to talk about with USAT, USDC, because of base pay, because of Shopify, because of all of, the Blinks platform on Solana, for example, where you can, have blockchain based actions when you click a link, to really just fund things. I think that's a really good point, that in the event that you can find a way to save your protocol money and pass it off to the user, because they're using a payment process that doesn't cost as much in fees due to processing, or just, rates that they want to charge. I think that's definitely a win for you guys. It's definitely a win for the user. So I'll ask you that same question, Lito, as a gamer yourself. That's kind of always been the issue, right? It's like, most of these games don't necessarily need these payment sources, but for what could be, what is money in the next 12 to 24 months, this could be the default sooner than we think. What are your thoughts?
Well, I just really like, can I ask you something, Justin? You'd say that the SVF, is that what's called, that token? Would you say that
SFG.
You're using SFG? I think that that's a great way to incentivize people for using your token, first off. And I've seen other gaming studios do something similar to that. For example, Rainy Studios, a gaming studio right now coming out with John Jones' game later on this year. They give you better prices, for example, in the past on card packs. By the way, this game is not in competition with you. They went under. So yeah, anyways, they gave these users less, they gave them more purchasing power by incentivizing them to pay for these card packs with their own token. And I think that that's a very nice way to incentivize people to hold on to your token and be inside your ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a win. It's a win-win, right? So not only do we, people who are adopting and using our token and creating value in the ecosystem with it, obviously helps everybody, and everybody kind of wins in that side. And frankly, like, again, if you're paying through not just like a payment processor, like forget the cut that something like Shopify or PayPal will take. You want to talk about the cut that Apple or Steam takes.
Yes.
They're taking 30%.
30%.
That's insane, right? So I can give you as a customer a 20% discount to use SFG, and you win, and I actually get more value out of it, and the ecosystem is increased. So again, this is what I love, right? I've been passionate about like crypto and DeFi because I love breaking these leeching monopolies that have created the only payment gateways for you, right? And that's banks, and that's these platforms, and that's these things like where it's like, look, they add value to the world. I'm not for getting rid of banks. I'm not for getting rid of these platforms, but I am looking to squeeze them a little bit. I am looking to give more power. The power balance has to shift back to the individual. And so that's where having crypto payment systems, that's where having these ecosystems, that's where like these things allow us to have a little bit more strength, a little bit more of the value that's created goes back to the actual community and the actual creators instead of just these platforms.
Love it.
I mean, how can you argue with that? It's a great thing. I want to thank Justin for the great segue on that, because we're all about, we don't have to get rid of the banks, because we still need them, obviously, to get money in our pockets, right? We do have multiple members of our community who are bankless now and have been for multiple years. But we definitely want to squeeze the process to make it more acceptable for regular people to do that. And if you want to learn more about this, and again, thanks to Justin for being here today with his excellent takes. Thanks to Lito for being here with his excellent takes. If you want to learn a little bit more about how DeFi works, how crypto works, and how to make that a positive passive income stream for you, please check us out at the mothership, which is at Beacon DeFi, Total Value Lock. This is our free group, by the way, absolutely free to join, learn from the best in the business, and really just get in tune, learn more about decentralized or DeFi financial literacy. If you know very little about how the financial system works, how your banks work, come and give us a call. I mean, just visit our site. We have plenty of free content. This is your keys, your crypto, self-custody. You're the bank. You get to control everything. and you're going to be paid handsomely in all kinds of stable coins, digital assets, SFG even if you want, which is a great liquidity play, if I may say so myself. Looking at a couple of the options that are out there. So again, thanks to our guests for being here today. Please follow them. Please follow us, like, subscribe, and all that. You'll learn more about what we do during the week. And I say that because we have a free community training every Friday at 3 p.m. that I lead called Beat the Banks. So we don't need to beat the banks. Let's just squeeze them just a little bit.
As you should.
As we should. And we'll make sure that we get a we get our true cut instead of just getting 0.025% on our savings account. I can show you how to get at least 10. Simple as that. Let's go and move on to the next part. Let me take that banner away. We found out what happened to Bo Hines. So if you know Bo Hines, he was the president special advisor for crypto under Alan Sachs, who's the AI and cryptos under President Trump. He resigned from his position, and we're trying to figure out where did he go. Well, it's interesting because it's been a very interesting year for Tether, who is the leading stable coin by market cap. USDT, number three or number four, in total market cap. They have a chokehold on the stablecoin market. They own more T-bills than most countries in this world. They couldn't get a stablecoin license in the EU under their MiCA framework. Justin Sun from Tron, who has the largest concentration of USDT on his blockchain, which is Tron. I think more than 44 billion, I think, is on Tron currently. He even went and reverse mergered a NASDAQ traded company called SBI to create Tron Incorporated to facilitate trying to get USDT into the US frameworks with the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and everything that's coming out. Well, still maybe it hasn't worked out. So Paulo Arduino and crew was like, why don't we just build a US only stablecoin? This was in the news last week. Like, it could be a possibility. Well, they went ahead and did it. They launched it on Friday in New York. It's called USAT. And Bo Hines is going to be leading that as a special advisor to the team. It's really a remarkable orchestration of how they were able to get this in the market, because, they tried multiple ways. And then if you go and grab Bo Hines, you're definitely going to figure out a way to get in. So the question is, do we need more stable coins in this market? That's a very interesting and very nuanced question to answer, guys. Mainly because Tether is at the center of this equation. I'd have to look it up today, but Tether still has more than 50% of the market cap with market share when it comes to stable coins. That's more than USDC, which has roughly about 20% to be quite. It's not very large at all compared to Tether. Banks and other institutions with all of these regulations are looking to eat up its share of the pie. Why? Because we reported on the show here last month, Tether made $4.9 billion in profit in Q2 this year. In terms of profitability, they have less than 20 employees, guys. Imagine the profit sharing on that. And that's up from 2.5 billion in Q3 last year. This was when Biden was still in office and they made that profit. So everyone wants a piece of Tether's pie. So curious to see how USAT works on all this. And again, we talked about this earlier. Is this really kind of building their pie? Or are they kind of cannibalizing their share across the world? Either way, Justin, I'll get another statement from you. I know that you've kind of already talked about this. So they're deeply under a microscope now, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, anytime, again, this is exactly where it is. Like, there's a lot of systems that, the world relies on that are, heavily regulated or heavily centralized, where, a specific agent or small number of agents capture most of the value. And the financial system, the healthcare system, the education system, there's a few different areas where this is a problem. And I want the more that we allow for a transparent, competitive marketplace, the better off we're going to be, right? So a few different stable coins that are pushing things, but transparency is a real keyword there, right?
That's the key.
As you were giving your overview, it's like, well, there's a lot of things we don't know, and so it's hard to make a real detail level comment on this particular thing. But when you're talking about moving money back and forth and really just being a fixed store of value and providing rails for transportation of value from one person to another, you should not be making billions of dollars a quarter for that. Like, I'm sorry, that's not required. Now, there should be value, no question, but where that is or how that's being distributed, again, the more competition there is in the marketplace, the more pressure there's going to be there. The more, like, again, if they're making that much and somebody else could then offer the same service but potentially offer a better yield for holding the coin to customers, and some of that percentage goes to the people who are supporting that ecosystem instead of just the 20 people that are behind the curtains, that's a better world for us. So, and I'm hoping this is pushing in that direction, but I don't have enough details on the project to know for sure.
Yeah, and the thing is according to the Genius Act, you can't have a quote unquote yield bearing stablecoin. So, if there's anything here, they're going to be rewards. So we'll
Right.
see exactly how this plays out. I don't know how much stablecoins you use, Lito, but this is a very interesting look into how there's going to be more and more. Like, at this rate, as much as I thought there was going to be a flood of stablecoins from groups like Walmart, for example, who loves to do their own stuff, right? This might be a better move for everyone altogether, because it's you're in line with the president. I mean, there's a lot of things, and I know that sounds terrible, from an ethos perspective of decentralization, but for entrepreneurship, this might be a ticket to get to better perks on things, right? Because we know that there's going to be a crypto framework coming where US crypto companies are probably going to pay nothing in tax, and some other things that are going to be there, but you're going to have to be under the umbrella of where these perks are going to come from. I think this might be a big part of it. And again, I don't use stablecoins all that much, other than to farm a couple things. But do you think the average everyday person is going to see this and think, this is what I need to be putting my money into to use to transact?
Personally, no.
Yeah,
but when I look at this, I think of, from a gamer's perspective, looking at platforms like Steam or Epic, the more competition there is amongst businesses or corporations, the better. I think that it's only going to be good for the consumer. So if they want to come out with multiple stake coins, like, why? But I mean, okay, don't give all the power to just one distributor or developer of these coins. So it's why not. I'm like, why? But sure, go ahead.
Well, and as a game designer, I'll jump back in here, right? Because, like, there's this other, you mentioned kind of the Walmart coin, right? And, like,
right,
most companies have things like that. They just call them points, right? You have Chase point systems and transferring to travel systems and earning points and rewards and all these different things, right? And those things allow, because they're somewhat captured within an ecosystem, right? There are ways to transfer some to the other. Because they're somewhat captured in an ecosystem, they don't fall afoul of a lot of these regulations and securities concerns, and so they're able to play this game of not just providing a store of value for people, but giving you incentives. And again, all economic systems are game design systems. You're just trying to build the right incentives to get people to do the things that you want them to do that hopefully benefit everybody. And so I would love to see something that lives in the space in between here, where it can be a fully transferable store of value, but it also allows us to build a more robust ecosystem, right? The best version, we started off talking about the Fed, right? The best version of the Fed is where they're kind of game designers that are just sort of tweaking the rates that value saving versus value investing versus the cost of new capital. And that allows us to, ramp up or slow down, cool down an economy. So, the question, actually, I think that's the bigger question for, anybody that's a stablecoin enthusiast is, does that, how does that allow us to have a better kind of like regulated, broader economy so that it allows, everyone to benefit from the upsides?
Or they could go the stimmy route, and if you use USAT to pay for Robux, G-Bucks, V-Bucks, and all of that, you'll get a 10% increase on your return.
Sure.
Watch it happen. You get that one for free, Bo Hines. You get that one for free.
Hire
Let's
him.
I mean, if you want to hire me for consulting, feel free. Let's go ahead and move on to our featured panelist, Justin Gary. Again, thank you so much. We're so humbled to have you here on this show today. Thanks for taking the time. Definitely want to talk about the beauty that is Stoneblade Entertainment, the beauty that is Solforge Fusion. I didn't play a lot of Magic growing up, but I had a lot of friends who did. You are collaborating specifically with Richard Garfield, whose vision for Magic the Gathering really brought, in my opinion, turn-based games or TCGs to the mainstream in multiple ways. Because it's a very simple process, but it has so many good replayable hours and deck building. There's a lot of skills that you learn about a lot of things, actually. Through this type of gaming, whether it's through something like this, like even the Pokemon TCG, the Vibes TCG from Pudgy Penguins, Hearthstone, many other games that are out there that follow very similar systems. So please give us a little bit of an introduction to the lore and the creation of the game and that whole process.
Yeah, so we'll give, I guess, the medium length version of the story, right? I mentioned at the top of the show, right? I started off as a professional Magic player when I was 17, paid my way through college playing Magic, traveled around the world, had incredible experiences, built some of the friendships that still last to this very day. And then, after working in the game industry for a little while, working on games for Marvel, DC, World of Warcraft, a variety of things, I decided to start off on my own, and I created my game Ascension almost exactly 15 years ago is when it was published. And a year after that, I got invited to speak at a PAX developer conference and talk about games. And Richard Garfield was giving a talk. And Richard Garfield, of course, my idol, right? The guy that created the entire collectible card game category. Of course, I'm going to go listen to him talk. So I'm sitting there in the audience, big things, taking notes, just like everybody else. And at the end of the talk, they had a Q&A. And they asked him in that Q&A, what's your favorite game right now? And he said, Ascension, my game. And I leapt up out of my seat and said, woohoo, like a kid. And everybody laughed, right? This is just a life goal moment. Everybody laughs in the whole room, but it gave me my in. So after the conversation, after the Q&A was over, I went up and introduced myself to him. And we had met during my time as a pro player, but, hadn't really dove deep. And we talked for over 2.5 hours after that. And
Amazing.
It was so clear that we were vibing on exactly the same product and exactly the same game concept. And that was Solforge Fusion, right? The original version was Solforge back in the day. We were the first game to launch on mobile, the first digital trading card game. Solforge Fusion is the first hybrid deck game where we're able to bring the best of tabletop gaming worlds into not just the digital era, but into Web3 and giving people true sense of digital ownership. And so it's really been a great joy to work with, such a brilliant mind and to call him my friend now for all of these years, and to bring and create this community and kind of bring in the next generation of gamer.
Yeah, and I think what's great about that is because you're utilizing NFTs that you can upgrade here. You can, as the thing about NFTs is that they're non-fungible, meaning that they're completely unique each and every single time. So what kind of give me the idea of what brought you into this hybrid part with Web3? Because the games token SFG is on, as you mentioned, it's on Solana as well as Base. Let's talk about that story. That I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, so a couple things here, right? A couple things all conform together. One, I've been a fan of crypto space and kind of as we've talked about earlier in the show, right? I'm a true believer. I think it's going to transform the world in a lot of ways, and I've been since 2015, 2016. But then when Solforge, the original version of Solforge, after we launched the game, it was a big success. We ran it for about 5 years. Eventually, we had to sunset the servers. And most of my other games I've made are either physical games or games that you download. So even when there's no servers or I stop making the game, you own them. They're yours. You have them. You could do whatever you want with them. But when the original version of Solforge shut down, your collection was gone. Everything was gone. The community was gone. And it was heartbreaking. That was heartbreaking to members of the community. It was crushing to me. I was like, that shouldn't be the case. Like, why is that? And so then once I also saw then a paired technology evolve, which was algorithmic digital printing, right? But previously to, about 6-7 years ago, you couldn't even do this, but now you can digitally print decks so that they're all actually unique and tagged and have a QR code. And then I started to put those two together. What if you had a physical game that's in your hands that could also connect to a permanent living on chain NFT digital version of that? So you actually get the best of both worlds, where I've got a deck that is uniquely mine that I can play with my friends around the kitchen table, and I've got that ability to play that with opponents around the world and trade that deck. And not only, and then from there, everything else kind of fold. Okay, well, what if you could like level up that deck? And what if you could actually make permanent improvements to it? What if it tracked your performance? What if you could play it in different modes and have a whole like solo campaign? And so Richard and I, you know, one, I had to convince Richard of this because it was definitely a big leap. And so I showed him a prototype and I kind of got the idea, and he was like, you know what, this actually is a good idea. And then here's the lessons I've learned since then. And we just started jamming again, and that created Solforge Fusion.
Yeah, one part of the game that I love, and I'll get Lito's, you know, the input on this as well, is just the idea, because you can create this, and really just essentially, if you ever open it up to more player-based lore, the ability to create, you know, custom campaigns, so that if you don't have people to play with, you can play on chain online with specific you know, customized campaign decks that you compete against. I think, like I will say right now, for anybody who's playing the game, my decks are not that great. I cannot get past the second part of Reclusa to get to Reclusa, and I'm kind of dying about it. But you know, we're gonna get a deck that works. So again, if you want to be a part of we're going to be doing some tournaments for our community. Please join our communityschool.com/beacon. We do have some. They've been generous enough to give us some booster pack codes. So once you start creating your decks, go through the campaign, you can get a free code from us to get another booster pack into your set. So yeah, I definitely want to, you know, learn about your guys' thoughts on how to cultivate the next generation of campaigns and things like this through you know, even if you have like a DAO or something like that, where people can vote on things like that, democratizing the process, getting people of, you know, your keys, your cards, your crypto type deal, continuing that moving forward. Because as you mentioned, you know, now that the game's going to live on forever for the most part because of this on-chain technology.
Yeah, that's right. And the vision is that the game could live on forever. And exactly as you said, that the community will get more and more control over the game. So if you look at the total pool of SFG that we created, the largest part of that, over I think about a third of the entire pool, is in a community fund. And so we're building those rails so that the community will be the ones that get to decide, exactly like we've decided to partner with you guys and get, you know, support your community and help you, you know, give you codes, and other communities, you know, sometimes we'll give SFG prizes and that sort of thing. It's like, that's great. But what it should be is the community making those decisions, and the community saying, hey, actually, we love this other group over here and we think they could help run some really great events. Awesome. Then the community fund can vote, and they can support them with packs and SFG and all the things that they would want to do. And so I think like handing off in essence, the community building exercise and the event creation exercise and the things that help us to grow to the community, I think is fantastic. Now, I do believe that, you know, that not everything should be decentralized. I actually think there's a skill to game design. I also teach that as I have a book called Think Like a Game Designer and a Substack. JustinGaryDesigns.com will take you there, where I teach you the skills of design, because I don't think that everybody has that skill set, but can. But I do think there's so many things that should be decentralized to really make it a community-owned thing, and I'm very passionate about that process.
No, that's amazing. Lito, your thoughts, please, on that.
Okay, there's a few things
He's
I
been
really
taking
like.
notes.
No, I was thinking, like,
I'm
what
ready.
do I like about Solforge? So basically, I like how you can have the digital ownership of your cards, and us talking about you can save fees on buying card packs by using the native token that you guys have. I like how, let's say, if I were to buy and sell one of my cards on, let's see, Blur, OpenSea, whatever, I can basically exchange it with someone else, and there would be no fees at all. As a result of it, I can just get the same dollar cost of the card that I'm selling to a different person. That's so cool. And I really like how Crimson was telling me about this the other day, because I'm like, this is definitely true. You can have the same kind of deck, and all things equal, it's not like, of course, there's a little bit of luck, but there's also a component of skill. Like, there are mind games that go on in this game, and it's like, Crimson, please stop talking to me while we're playing, please. I don't need you to make me think anything about. Yeah, it's not just about the cards. There's also mind games, and there's skill, and that really adds to the fun of the game. By the way, I want to ask you, how many cards are there in total for this game?
Yeah, so there are over 30,000 unique
Yeah.
cards because of our ability to algorithmically generate the cards. We've already got, we had more cards than Magic's first 20 years in our first year. And so there's such a crazy amount of variety. Now, if that sounds awesome to you, then the thing that's great about it, and part of what Richard and I were trying to do with Solforge Fusion, is bring back that, for lack of a better term, the magic of opening a new pack of cards, right? If you're a fan of something like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or any other games that are out there, right? It used to be when I was growing up, I would open up a pack of cards and I would see things I'd never seen before. I'd see a Shivan Dragon or a Royal Assassin or whatever, some cool card that would like, oh my God, that's so cool. What's going to happen? Well, how do I use this? But nowadays, that's just not the case, right? The spoilers are out before the set's gone, before the set releases. Within a week or two, all of the best decks have been figured out and everybody just copies the same decks and buys the same cards. And now with Solforge Fusion, I guarantee that the pack you open, no one else has ever opened that pack before. They're all unique. They're all one of a kind. So you get that discovery process. You get that excitement again. And that was a big part of why we built the game the way we did.
Yeah. And it's cool because let's say you just stop producing new cards for, let's say, a decade. Throughout that decade, there's going to be new different metas found out because there's so many different cards and so many combinations and ways you can play. So that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's exciting. And it's another piece of this that, like, what I was trying to capture with Solforge Fusion is like when you create a traditional trading card game, right? The value of the game actually does accrue a lot to the players, right? I can buy a pack of cards for $3.99 or $4.99 or whatever, but sometimes I'll open up individual cards that can trade on the secondary market for hundreds, thousands, with some of the older cards like Black Lotus, many millions of dollars. And that doesn't go to the company that made Magic. It doesn't go to some intermediary. It goes to you, the player, whoever you're trading with. And that, as TCGs have moved digital, that value has been captured and reclaimed back by the big corporations, right? Magic Arena, you can't trade your cards, sell your cards to anybody else. Hearthstone, you can't do that. They collect all the money. They're the only way to get anything. And that bothered me. And so Solforge Fusion puts that power back into the hands of players, not just with the value of your NFT decks and your physical decks that you can trade, but also with the coin, right? As the ecosystem grows, the players control more of the coins and more of the than I do. And the players are the ones that are going to benefit when things grow, and the people who believe in the ecosystem. And so that to me is like really empowering and inspiring. And it's one of the reasons why I think crypto gaming in general is a great space to be in, and specifically why we moved into the space with Solforge Fusion.
I mean, I think it's amazing you guys have so many cards. So, there are there are 4 factions, right? You have Tempest, Utera, Aloyan, and Necrium. Is there any chance that we see maybe a 5th or a 6th faction on Solis?
Well, I'm not going to comment on future set releases. However, we sort of did something like this with our recent sets. If you look at Shadows over Solis and our previous sets, we've created a corrupted Forgeborn.
Right.
And the corrupted Forgeborn gives you specific variations of certain cards and abilities that don't exist elsewhere. So we've been able to kind of create not a new faction, but in essence, a totally new way to play within each of the other factions. So it's kind of created a dark variant, if you will, of each of the factions and several of the Forgeborn that allows you to play the game totally differently. And so we're going to keep innovating. We've got tons of cool new ways and tons of cool new designs down the road. And also for those that, there might be some people that are a little intimidated by that 30,000 number we threw out there, right? Like that sounds like an awful lot, but really there's a lot of the common cards and a lot of the common effects. You can learn them very quickly, right? There's actually only hundreds of those, and those ones you can get, and we give you free starter decks. We give you the ability to play them. And as was mentioned, the campaign mode, you can play the campaign mode on your own without anybody else to, no crimson there to trash talk you and try to beat you in the online games. But you can and you can learn and grow. And because again, not only can you get better at it, right? Or Chris, you haven't been able to beat Reclusive yet, but every time you play your deck gets better, right? You get upgrades to the deck. You get to so you will get more and more power, both as a player as you learn the skills and the strategies, but also as your deck evolves. So it's designed to be something that is accessible for someone who maybe isn't that super competitive player, but does have that depth of strategy and excitement for the people who are.
I think it's great. One thing I wanted to ask, and again, appreciate you being here today. Just kind of talking about some of the more Web3 kind of focused mechanisms here, as possible updates to the game. One thing that definitely I think could be something interesting is the ability to if you have a card or something that, for example, just gets upgraded to the point where it's amazing, that, you can use it as possibly collateral for other things moving forward, or the ability to have prediction markets in game at events, stuff like that. Or even something as simple as, gosh, what was the one thing I was looking at is being able to harvest SFG, through events, through liquidity provision, other ways to help support not only just the player base, but the actual game itself. There are a lot of mechanisms in DeFi and Web3 that you can utilize to do that. Are you guys looking at things like that to help move the game forward?
Yeah, 100%. And so if you click on the Web3 button at the top of the screen there, right, you'll see we actually already have liquidity mining, which, is built both on Solana, and we've built liquidity on Base. So wherever you are, you can already just, stake SFG and earn, there. You also have the ability to, of course, use the token for in-game items, as we talked about as well. But I am a huge believer in building these other systems, and in fact, you may have more knowledge than I in some of the tools that already exist, because I just haven't had the bandwidth to like roll this myself yet, because I want to have a version where we could stake SFG on the outcome of a match, where you could make little individual prop bets while you're watching a live stream, where you could have these different, like, that sounds so much fun to me. And I absolutely want to build those systems and build those rails, but I have not had the time to do so. So if those exist, or there's partners that are out there that I'm not aware of yet, where we could like build that infrastructure, that sounds so cool to me. In addition, we are, so that's one piece. In addition, we are looking to build a different type of kind of staking program that's not just for liquidity, but also allows you to kind of have a kind of seasonal pass with cool in-game rewards and other aspects where you can both, that appeals not to both the kind of degens out there and to the players out there. So we have a lot of roadmaps, in addition, as I mentioned, governance and the ability to have, like, having tokens that you can stake to give yourself more of a governance right, because you're showing that you're believing in the ecosystem. So all of those things are part of the roadmap, but man, there's so many things to do. So not enough time to do them. So yeah, any partners or tools that you're aware of, happy to have those conversations. And if they don't exist, then I will eventually build them myself, because they have to exist.
Really quickly, I think.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think that someone that you would really enjoy talking about this with would be Marty, the CEO of Lightning Forge Games. I don't know if y'all have had conversations before, but he's definitely a game master for trading card games. So that's someone you definitely want to talk to.
Okay.
And while we're talking about that, I do want to say, this has been a fantastic conversation. We've mentioned his name a couple of times. To Crimson, community manager for Solforge Fusion, hello, thanks for that. And I also want to give a shout out. He's traveling today. We were trying to get him on. I did not reach out in time to Player One Taco, who's the person who actually connected me, with you and the team about a game, because I was asking for, I can't play a lot of like first person shooters, third person shooters, because I have really bad motion sickness. So I play a lot of action RPGs and TCGs. Like Gwent is one of my favorite TCGs of all time.
Yeah,
that one's fun.
And because I love The Witcher 3. So
same, dude. I'm playing it right now.
Gwent is so good, especially when you get the purple deck with so many good buffs there. Anyway, yeah, I was asking for a game that I could stream and play, on my off time when I'm not doing all the educational stuff. And Taco was quick to say Solforge Fusion. And I just happened to be on a game show that Lido hosted, where I didn't actually guess that one of the actual Wheel of Fortune guesses was Solforge Fusion. I'd never played the game, so this all just came together so quickly. And obviously, thank you guys so much for the generosity you guys have shown our community and stuff. Guys, if you want to join our tournaments that we're going to be having, we have hundreds to thousands of dollars in SFG to give away as prizes. So I want you guys to benefit off of this. And like I said, there's all kinds of mechanisms that are available outside the game that could definitely be brought in. Even things like, one thing we talk about in our group a lot is DeFi savings accounts. The ability to just take stable coins, and you can take your profits that you get from the games, or even from the liquidity mining, put them into savings accounts. You can go and buy more things. I'm looking for the link to the crowdfunded thing because I definitely want you guys to support. There's a big set of cards and booster packs that you can get into, and I think it's at a great rate right now. I'll put that in the show notes.
Shadows over Solis on GameFound.
Yeah, GameFound. That's the name of the site. I'll find that link and I'll put it in the show notes. I found it. Feel free to check this out. I'm a big fan of the game, really enjoying the experience so far, Justin. So thanks so much for you and Richard coming together to bring this to life. Uh, my co-founder is absolutely obsessed. He's willing to challenge everybody, anyone and everyone, with his deck that he's put together. He's already beaten Reclusa 2 or 3 times, and I can't even get past the second thing in the campaign. But I'm gonna have to figure it out. All I know is that if I can make a perp decks of some of the best cards, in the game and tokenize them, whether it be an Acelin or like the Axiom Shift card. Oh, they get 2 middle fingers for me. I hate that card. That one gets me every single time. Anyway, that's outside the scope of this. I will be calm. But this is a great place to go if you want to support the game. Unbelievable sales right now. And I just want to bring this part in because one thing is that if you buy printed decks and stuff, you have the ability to actually bring them into your on-chain game as well, correct?
That's right. Yeah, playing Solforge Fusion digitally is completely free. Every single deck you buy has a QR code that lets you scan that deck in, lock it into your account, and then if you want, you can use SFG to turn that into an NFT that you will own forever. It can do whatever you want with it. So it lives in all 3 areas, however you want to engage the game. If you want to be a tabletop player primarily, if you want to be a Web 2 player primarily, if you want to be a Web 3 player primarily, or if you want to just take the benefits of all of it, one purchase has a unique collection across all of those different spheres. And we are the only game that does that. So it's a really great thing to support the community and just play the game you want to play the game. Don't have to rebuy stuff because you just shifted platforms or you decided you want to play digitally or physically.
I mean, some of these pledge perks are crazy. I mean, I this is the only way I'm growing my hair back, is if I become a campus patron.
Yeah, man.
Founder balding is a real thing, guys. I know that bald is the ultimate flex right now. For
yeah,
all
it
founders
is.
Anyway,
you get a founder buff for having low hair follicles, so it's much.
Yeah, I definitely have them. I definitely have them. That's for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah, there's a reason why my studio is very dark. Anyway, that's all we have for the show today. Again, thanks so much for Justin for being here. Lito, we'll let you lead the outro. Please let people know where they can find you. Anything you're working on right now.
Well, you can find me on Twitter. It's the same handle I have inside right here on the screen. I am a content creator, and I just love talking about Web3 and Web3 gaming as a whole. So thank you for having me on, Chris, and nice talking to you, Justin.
Yeah, been a pleasure.
And Justin, thanks again so much for your time. You're very generous with it. And just the opportunity to be here. You're welcome back on panel anytime if you ever want to talk about what we talk about here on the show. So thanks for being here. Please let everybody know where we can find you.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I actually did enjoy giving my hot takes on global economy and DeFi. It's entertaining. So yeah, you can find me. I'm on X, Justin_Gary. You could do just JustinGaryDesigns.com. Will take you to my Substack where I post all the time. Of course, SolforgeFusion.com to get all the things Solforge Fusion. We also have a Discord, which is very active. My team and I are all active. You can find the link from there or from StoneBlade.com, where you can find all my other games.
Yes, and we'll have all the links on the post, both on our site, which is at school.com/beacon. Again, completely free to join. If you want to join Total Value Locked and learn more about how to become a competent blockchain investor through our free content. If you want the best, of course, you can join our Beacon Mastermind, which is where a lot of our founding members and our Beacon challengers go. And thanks to them for helping making all of this possible. Shout out to you guys. We love you. And we'll be back next week, as we've done this show every week since December 2021, on helping educate our users with the news of the week to help you with your investment decisions. Of course, none of this is financial advice, and I have to say that again and again and again. Do your own research, but we love doing this show. It's a lot of fun. And we'll see you next Wednesday for another great panel here on the Beacon TVL show. As we say on the show here, beacons up, banks down. See you later, guys. I know it's really harsh after that talk we just had. I still need outro music, but we're